All right. How's everybody doing out there today? This is Gold Pilled here with the Gold Pilled stream. And this video was completely impromptu. I had no plans of doing another part on Brendon O'Connell, but he posted a video last night to YouTube, and it really hit home with me. And I thought the information was really important, and I wanted to share it and get it out there for others to hear. Even though I basically have no following at this point, um, hopefully in the future or someone they'll come across this info and they'll learn some more. So for the longest while now, um, I've kind of seen and believe that everything that they put before our eyes and our ears is highly orchestrated and scripted. I call it the world stage. Uh, kind of our whole reality is the world stage. And, I call it that because, it's all theater. It's acting. This world stage is, all scripted and play written. And they have actors, carry out the plot. And that's how they, control the majority's narratives. And I've also been aware that um, from doing, a little bit of studying and looking into KGB subversion tactics and listening to things that have been said from Yuri Bezmenov. Um, I, I give him a lot of credibility in what he said with the ideological subversion that they've been doing. And one of the parts of that he goes into a lot is they want to make it so, um, you know, you don't know what to believe. There's just so many angles um, and so many layers of the onion. The average person just, they don't know what to believe anymore. It's too overwhelming. And, um, this kind of corresponds to the post-truth world, which I think there's been a couple documents and probably a few people who have mentioned this, that we're currently in a post-truth world, and what that means is um, there's really no truth anymore. We're just fed lies all day, every day, pretty much, and people accept it as truth because they've been, subverted for so long and, into believing that. So, for quite a while now, I've believed that to be the case. And then Brendon posted this video here last night, and it just hit home on, those two topics. So I think that's very important to get out there and share. So we're gonna watch some parts of Brendon's video here, and I might touch on what he says. It's not really gonna be any Brendon bashing here. And, even though I still think he's some kind of player in this game, um, that doesn't mean that the info he's putting out doesn't have credibility, and it's not valid and shouldn't be taken in and discerned. So, that's why I still follow him, and that's why he's still, one of my favorite truthers out here. So, let's just get started with that because we're going to listen to several minutes of it here. So, let's go over to good old YouTube and bring that up.
Okay, ladies and gents, we'll go straight into this short video on those magnificent Canadian truckers actually doing something. So let's give a big round of applause. I haven't got an applause button, but I'm going to get one. Really, a big round of applause for them. It's great to see people doing something. So I want to maintain that psychological perspective where...
And I apologize, I had it on the faster speed, so we'll slow it down.
We applaud and say, well done, but we're keeping our eye on you. We're not stupid. We understand COINTELPRO. We understand the CIA culture war. We understand Kissinger and Associates. We understand Vladislav Surkov. We understand the theatre stage shows. We understand them running both sides, funding both sides. There is no right and left. It's just them, bankers, banking cartels. And as we watch the narratives unfold, what do we notice, ladies and gentlemen? What do we notice? We notice two things. Number one, Brendon has yet again forgotten to press the 20-minute timer so that he does not run his mouth off endlessly into time immemorial and then write a book by Joan Peters filled with lies about Palestinians. No, besides that, the other thing is we must not let these poxy mainstream narratives distract us, disempower us, make us relax. We must stay forever vigilant. We must never ever channel Henry Kissinger's demon because my voice box is still affected 4 days on. We must not become belligerent, but we must not also be trusting. Let's put those little things in the room. We don't embrace them. We don't make love. We don't hit the sack on the first date and then come away with gonorrhea, syphilis and herpes. No, no, no. We get to know each other. You sit over there and let's have a chat. Let's see what you're all about. Let it reveal itself. Let the fruits come forth, perhaps sweet at the start, but then very bitter in the center. So let's be really cautious. Again, the psychological balancing act is to be a cynic and also a true believer, positive little jerk-off at the same time. And let's understand how that system works because they run narratives night and day. It's a war of narratives, a war of stories. This is what it's all about. Let's now listen to the truckers. Then let's look at alternative perspectives that tie in with the Kissinger and Associates plan, the East India Trading Company to break up the United States and form the world into those 4 to 5 main multipolarity, Alexander Dugin, the Fourth Protocol, etc., and about breaking up and building that Cold War 2.0, building the War Powers Act, building robots and drones to be turned on us by Agenda 2030. Remember, they can't get away with stuff. The managerial class are humans. They have children. They love their children too, as Sting would sing. It's a good song. We should play that later on. I hope the Russians love their children too. They are good people throughout the system. Arseholes there too, but the majority are decent, reasonable human beings. We've got to empower them. We've got to tell them we understand the grand narrative and we're going to support them. They better know that there is an intelligent citizenry out there who get it and understand how the system works, so they will feel empowered to act. And when their supervisor, like a Dave Frasca of the FBI Muslim Fundamentalist Unit, stops you doing 5 separate investigations into Muhammad Atta and the blind sheikh going all the way back to 88, all the way back to bringing in these Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood people who had assassinated Sadat. Was it Sadat or Nasser? Sorry, I can't remember. We got to go back over all that time frame and how it led up to today. So those supervisors can't shut down the good FBI and other defense intelligence agencies, whether it's ONI, whether it's CIA. There's good people in there. We got to make sure they don't get shut down and they have the confidence to push forward, particularly the military. So let's watch this thing on the truckers. God bless them. And then we're going to go into some narratives that, we need to game theory. We need a few versions of events. And if we understand grand strategy, the big picture, we'll be able to begin to be suspicious in all the right places without becoming overly belligerent and cynical. Remember, they love that too because you'll switch off and you'll get miserable and you won't be motivated in joy and happiness to mix with others and push a narrative forward in joy and hopefulness. So they love getting us to those polar extremes. It's their number one, numero uno, Tavistock Institute, Roundtable Group, Cecil Rhodes. Let's get them cynical. Let's shove them into a highly polarized state up to one end of the spectrum, and never the twain shall meet. And then it becomes very uncomfortable to sit in the middle ground. And you have to have a very strong personality. You have to have a very strong mind to be able to stand the tension of the middle ground. So let's try and understand some of this psychology. Let's let these ladies speak.
As the trucking...
All right. So right there when he ended it, he said how hard it is to be able to sit in the middle ground with, with all this bombardment, chaos, and confusion coming from both sides. It makes it, ever so hard to be down the middle and see it all and, not get pulled to, either one of those sides. And, I kind of feel like I'm in that middle right now, and I'll tell you, it is very hard. It is very hard, with seeing, everyone else around me, even a big majority of the, supposed truth community and supposedly red-pilled people, they're not there. And as we go on here, a lot of this stuff that, he touches on, you relate it to the whole C-19 narrative that's happening now, and how it's going to be used for that. So let's skip ahead here. We got to go to 1548. He just plays this news clip about them talking to the truckers and gives a little commentary. The link to this video will be in the description, so I encourage you to go watch it in full. But let's continue.
So much. We'll talk.
Well scripted and well spoken. God bless you. May well makes sense, doesn't it? Man, the White House must be really stupid. Didn't they realize that, if truckers are just not going to go to work, what will happen? Well, maybe there's another reason they're doing this. Let's investigate. Well, let's put the Canadian truckers on, damn it. I want to see these Canadians. Look at them. They left their homes into the cold. Those crazy commie Canadians.
Trucker freedom! Trucker freedom!
Woo, yeah.
Trucker freedom! Clap out to the beat of freedom! Clap out to...
Now, let me be a cynic. Crisis actor, LARPA, in the employ of a Canadian private intelligence company? Or is it just a grassroots movement? Is it the trucking unions? What do we believe anymore? I don't believe freaking anything anymore. So I got to sit back, smoke my cigar, eat my popcorn, do my tapping, and But let's not be too cynical. Let's just keep it in our minds. LARPing, nothing. Look, let's start from Wag the Dog. It's all freaking orchestrated. You watch the mainstream media and most of the alt media. Like I said before, the insane clown posse, a vile, disgusting, shock, rock, filthy, disgusting band. They were just ridiculous, but they were hugely popular. And everyone thought, yeah, rebel. Only one problem, they were run by Disney. So I don't believe anything anymore. Alternative rock scene, it's all run by the big multinationals. In every single protest, all I see is a bunch of denology LARPing crisis actors. And that's a shame. But they want us at that point. They want us to not believe in anything. And that's the double-edged sword of this sort of narrative and trying to work out what's going on. That's why in a lot of ways I just say to hell with it, I don't care. Let me on the streets of the United States. Let me go in after national security, Israel and bankers. And then I wouldn't worry about sitting here analysing every day. But if I could influence at least a few of you, a small audience, because I get a fairly intelligent audience come along who say, thanks for waking me up. I was sort of onto it, but you really refined that simple thing. And that's a shame, which is that grand chessboard strategy. There's no right, left. They fund all sides. So when we watch the ladies going off here, the people united will never be defeated. Truck off with your mandates.
Well, I'm here because I'm already free, and all these people are free, and we're all coming together, because right now this is a time for coming together and not being standing apart, and not being torn apart, not losing our jobs, not losing our families, coming together and being free together.
Amen. Who can argue with that? Could you argue with that? What was just said? You can't argue with that. There they go. Together. Is it just data analytics, ladies and gentlemen? Once you understand social networking science, let me give you some alternative narratives, some alternative stories. Many, many years ago, I read a book. It was either a book or a pamphlet. I can't remember, but it was many years ago. And they said they had 8 data points on everyone. I think this was the early to mid-1990s, 8 data points. And from those 8 data points and the basic personality tests they were doing and all stuff stretching back 100 years at the Tavistock Institute and the work of Carl Gustav Jung and Freud and all the rest, advertising and marketing, that with 8 data points, they could generally predict who you'd vote, where you lived, the kind of job you'd have, and a whole range of things with 8 data points. The average data points on every human being, on average, is 3,000 data points. And in some cases, 30,000 data points. And once you look up social networking science, you will begin to understand the instant feedback mechanism of the internet. Pretty soon, these will be free, super fast, and incredibly complex. And you'll get one for free. They want you carrying it, and they want you constantly inputting, and they want you with your healthcare devices, taking your blood pressure and your blah, 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 and everything. And I don't know, probably soon brain implants. bum implants, penis implants. They'll be checking erectile dysfunction. They're just feeding data into this beast, feeding the AI and the machine learning in real time. The ability for our social networking science to not only get the data, but get the data in real time and feed automatically with sophisticated computer programs and algorithms, which can feed you such incredible predictive power that they can then stage a show. It could be any show, like a big trucking thing. We shall resist, the people united will never be and did you feel good? Like the Victorian copper, when the Victorian coppers were putting their rifle butts in the back of people at protests over COVID, into their spines. They were face down on the ground with their hands behind their back, handcuffed, and Victorian coppers were beating the shit out of them. And I thought, thank God I'm not there, because that copper's he's getting it. He is absolutely getting it. I've never seen that with Australian police. They can be rough sometimes, but I have never seen that behaviour from an Australian police force in my life. And, well, not entirely, but I've never seen such consistent, over-the-top police brutality. And all of a sudden, a very attractive female copper came out and said, I'm a female Victorian police officer. I'm not happy. And I went straight, that is a freaking actor. She's probably a real copper. She's in the public relations department. That is fake. I could tell she was fake. I just fucking knew instantly. But it reduced my tension. I was upset. My old man was a cop. My friends were cops. Graham Davies was the superintendent of recruiting in the WA Police Force. We're friends of the family. My old man's old sergeant. You work in emergency departments and ICUs. You know cops. You know, I work security in that. You meet cops larking on the side. They were my friends. So when I start hating cops and getting upset, things are bad. But I remember thinking, no, that's fake. That is a pressure release, because, I felt relieved, thank God. It's like with me, and they were rating me, and things were going to get nasty. Weren't they, Detective Justin Robinson? We had our little meeting, and I said, lucky we've had this meeting, Justin and Adam Titman. Even the tension that do, and coppers need to be able to say sorry, sacked and God knows what else, so that people can come together and just say sorry without being sued and all the rest. But we need pressure steam releases, and I really feel sometimes we should keep in mind that might be a pressure steam release. We should just keep that in our mind. It's the age of data analytics, real-time data analytics, social networking science, crisis actors, whole corporations built hiring out-of-work actors to play roles, professional witness, Johnny on the spot, you name it. So we need to be very, very careful. That's all I'm saying. Be very cautious we're not getting led down the garden path, because what might be happening? Jimmy Hoffa. Now, all right, he's involved with organised crime, but, I actually do think...
And I'll say that ever since these freedom convoys started, I've been highly suspicious of them. Usually nothing grassroots organic gets as big as this convoy does without, them making it that way and controlling it. So this very well is a pressure release, and I'm already seeing it have an effect. Everybody's supporting them, and they're fighting for our freedoms, hooray for them. And it's just a pressure release. Releases the pressure and lets everyone cool down and think something's going to happen, and nothing's going to change. They already know the outcome of this convoy before it's even over, based on the analytics that he spoke about. But we'll go over more of what he said here after he's done, so we'll just let it play here.
He was very passionate about his union and his people. You will have to decide. Watch The Irishman. That's actually a pretty reasonable accounting of what was going on. But it's fine. We'll have got automated policing. We'll have fully automated... well, that's 20 minutes. We better get the 5-minute... got 5 minutes to end and then another 5 minutes to sum up. So, self-driving vehicles could be the solution to the truck driver shortage. It's like defunding the police. Can't get decent coppers. Fully autonomous surveillance drones, maybe the help with police do their job in an age when we can't get police. And semi-autonomous kill vehicles and robots, that'll help. Turning into fully autonomous kill vehicles by 2030. Just type in self-driving truck. You'll get it. Choose simple, anonymous truck or long-haul trucking, all about it to rule Texas highway, addressing both driver short stars, some social engineering going on. I'm just saying. It's finally all coming together. How left-wing families who resemble the 5 families in the famous movie The Godfather have transformed American politics and exploited their access to power while they caused a major disaster for the rest of Americans. And you will find no mention of bankers, Wall Street, think tanks, Atlantic Council, Denology, Clearforce, DynCorp, private military contractors, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon. Should we keep going? Imagine you are locked in the right-left horseshit paradigm. And when I see this horseshit right-left paradigm, what I then see is a big trucking expose being a giant LARP. I can't say 100% for sure, but we need to be very, very, very cautious. Ladies and gentlemen, please be very, very, very cautious, or you end up getting led down the garden path. Remember 9/11? It was all about oil. It was about ODG-9 and reshaping the Middle East, breaking up pan-Arab nationalism to expand the borders into Greater Israel and the Federated States of Greater Israel. Why? To make it a hub in terms of the Rothschild banking empire, grand pan-Eurasian superstate. To lock people up, particularly Asians and particularly the Indians, 2.8 billion people, to lock them up in the Smart Cities program, and who knows, vaccinate them into sterility. Who knows? We need that grand chessboard. We need to ask the questions again from my favorite man, hypernormalization, this brilliant, and it's literally 5 minutes. I put it on my phone and I'm sending it around on my phone to signal on WhatsApp through people. But please watch this next 5 minutes. It will blow your mind. You've seen it before, but not in this format. I didn't realize, and I forgot, I downloaded this 5-minute segment from the hypernormalization. It's re-edited by good old Adam Curtis. It explains the problem. We can't form coherent narratives. Just as Yuri Bezmenov said, we're going to get to the point where you can't form a cohesive understanding of what's going on. If you can't form a cohesive understanding, you can't fight it. Watch this 5 minutes right now. It'll blow your mind. I'll whack it up on YouTube, but I'm banned at the moment, so I'll put it up on my Patreon account. Are you ready? Non-linear warfare, a new system of political control. You gotta love it, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta love it.
So this is the clip he played that I felt was really important. I haven't seen this clip before. However, I was vaguely aware of what they did in Russia, a little bit in the past with the collapsing of the Soviet Union and the supposed end of communism and stuff. Like I had little bits of knowledge of how they did it. But this clip here was really informative.
So much of the news this year has been hopeless, depressing, and above all, confusing. To which the only response is, oh dear. But what this film
is gold for Australia.
Is going to suggest is that defeatist response has become a central part of a new system of political control. And to understand how this is happening, you have to look to Russia and to a man called Vladislav Surkov, who is a hero of our time. Surkov is one of President Putin's advisors and has helped him maintain his power for 15 years. But he has done it in a very new way.
Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin.
He came originally from the avant-garde art world, and those who have studied his career say that what Surkov has done is import ideas from conceptual art into the very heart of politics. His aim is to undermine people's perception of the world, so they never know what is really happening. Surkov turned Russian politics into a bewildering, constantly changing piece of theatre. He sponsored all kinds of groups, from neo-Nazi skinheads to liberal human rights groups. He even backed parties that were opposed to President.
January 6th, Jason Furness, Earth calling Jason Furness. You get to the January 6th committee, say hello from Brendon, and please, remember Adam Curtis, channel him.
Putin. But the key thing was that Surkov then let it be known that this was what he was doing.
Is that Shadowgate? Is that why Millie Weaver and Gavin Winch just stopped? Is that why Patrick Berge smokes his bong all effing day in his office and does nothing? Is that why they're all hanging out with Rudy freaking Giuliani as we speak? Oh, best buddies ever. The world is a macabre and strange place. The revelation of the method, that's what you were, Shadowgate. That's what you are. And history will not be kind to Millie Weaver and the gang.
Which meant that no one was sure what was real or fake. As one journalist put it, it's a strategy of power that keeps any opposition constantly confused.
Oh, yes.
A ceaseless shape-shifting that is unstoppable because it's indefinable.
Oh, you're giving me
Which is
shivers.
exactly what Surkov is alleged to have done in the Ukraine this year.
Ooh, how apt.
In typical fashion, as the war began, Surkov published a short story about something he called non-linear war. A war where you never know what the enemy are really up to, or even who they are. The underlying aim, Surkov says, is not to win the war, but to use the conflict to create a constant state of destabilized perception in order to manage and control. But maybe we have something similar emerging here in Britain.
Oh, baby. Tell us,
Everything
Adam.
we're told by journalists and politicians is confusing and contradictory. Of course,
Really? Yeah, does sound familiar. It's really difficult to work out what's going on, isn't it? Wow, I love this. I love you, Adam Curtis. Didn't like your last one, though.
there is no Mr. Surkov in charge, but it's an odd, non-linear world that plays into the hands of those in power. British troops have come home from Afghanistan, but nobody seems to know whether it was a victory or whether it was a defeat. Aging disc jockeys are prosecuted for crimes they committed decades ago, while practically no one in the City of London is prosecuted for the endless financial crimes that are being revealed there.
Wow. Did you ever think of that? Not that I don't want that little arsehole locked away forever, though they waited till he was dead. But you getting it? Prince Andrew? They're going after Virginia Giuffre. You said it's just the beginning. Is that what they told you? I guarantee you they go no further. And once the royals are under control and Prince Charles stops leaking letters saying when is an American president going to take on the Jewish lobby in America, we're not going to see anyone else. Think about it, people. Adam Curtis, genius. Last lot, not so good. He knows Russell Brand well. Speaking of Russell Brand and brands and crisis actors. But anyway, let's not be too cynical. Let's not be too cynical. This is gold. Gold for Australia.
In Syria, we are told that President Assad is the evil enemy. But then his enemies turn out to be even more evil than him. So we bomb them. And by doing that, we help keep Assad in power. But the real epicenter of this non-linear world is the economy. And the closest we have to our own shape-shifting, postmodern politician is George Osborne. He tells us proudly that the economy is growing. But at the same time, wages are going down.
Rand Paul
He says he is
comes to mind.
cutting the deficit, but then it's revealed that the deficit is going up. But the dark heart of this shape-shifting world is quantitative easing. The government is insisting on taking billions of pounds out of the economy through its austerity programme. Yet at the very same time, it is pumping billions of pounds into the economy through quantitative easing. The equivalent of £24,000 for every family in Britain. But it gets even more confusing, because the Bank of England have admitted that those billions of pounds have not gone where they are supposed to. A vast amount of the money has actually found its way into the hands of the wealthiest 5% in Britain. It has been described as the biggest transfer of wealth to the rich in recent documented history. It could be a huge scandal, comparable to the greedy oligarchs in Russia. A ruthless elite siphoning off billions of public money. But nobody seems to know.
Oh, wait for it. This goal. Wait for what he says here. It's just brilliant. It's so simple. It's in our faces. If we could, ladies and gentlemen, if we can just see it, if we can just see this, it's all fucking bullshit. It's professional LARPing, crisis actor, horseshit. I don't believe anything anymore. But I'm not going to be belligerent. I'm not going to be cynical. I think.
It sums up the strange mood of our time. where nothing really makes any coherent sense. We live with a constant vaudeville of contradictory stories that makes it impossible for any real opposition to emerge, because they can't counter it with a coherent narrative of their own.
Did you hear that? We can't counter it with a coherent narrative of our own. That's why I've been going on about big, grand strategy, to get that big picture which we can contain everything else. Watch video 39, the great game.
And it means that we as individuals become ever more powerless, unable to challenge anything, because we live in a state of confusion and uncertainty, to which the response is, oh dear.
Wow. You reckon Alex Jones is ever going to play that 5-minute clip? You know, we've got the former head of NATO, Marine Psychological Warfare, an instructor, Robert David Steele, running around. He's going to save the world, save the poor adrenochrome kids in the satanic child sacrifice rituals. Robert David Steele, a guy who specialised in fucking with people's heads, says on Alex Jones that his children are being kidnapped and taken to Mars on a 20-year ride. And he's hanging out having lunch with who? Roger Stone, who's besties and working with Paul Manafort of 3EDC LLC, which works with General Jim Jones of Denology and Clear Force, who run these freaking operations. And there's Roger Stone is still sitting there unmolested with his little gay friend, Karl Rove's boyfriend, Ali Akbar, Ali Alexander, Tiny Prancer, the pedophile, Nick Fuentes, the closet gay. As Patrick Berge said, God bless him, before he became completely useless, it appears to get on Alex Jones, you have to be a sexual deviant. That would be correct, said the Sabbatean Frankist, Moses Hess. Man, did you get that powerful 5 minutes? I'm going to put this up on my Patreon as a file you can download. It'll only be about 30 megabytes, and you can send that round via WhatsApp and Signal and other things. I'll whack it up on BitChute or something. I'll do something. And it's a powerful 5 minutes. Very powerful. Let's ask again what Yuri Bezmenov told us all those years again, ladies and gentlemen. What did Yuri Bezmenov tell us? The great man, KGB, who gave it all. You can just look him up, Yuri Bezmenov, ex-KGB, 1984, where he says here, ideological subversion or psychological warfare changes the perception of reality to such an extent that despite the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. When I see Patrick Berge do such great work, then sit and smoke pot all day, hanging out with the idiot Tor who tells her daughter every 5 minutes that time travel is possible amongst all their other...
Apply that Yuri quote there to the C-19 narrative that we've been subjected to for the past 2-3 years.
Q-tard shit. And then they're all hanging around Rudy Giuliani. I get confused, ladies and gentlemen. I get a little confused. And my eyes start twitching and I am confused. I don't understand why we are so... What the hell is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We're now going to read from... We're going to read that again, this time looking at this picture. Or such an... To correct my spelling. It changes... Did I say changes the perception of reality to such an extent that despite the abundance of information, half of which is planted, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. Ooh, profound. You combine that with Adam Curtis, what do you get? One final thing, we're going to read a little quote from the sycophantic, pathetic Uns Review, who used to sort of do semi-stuff, then they just became total Putin groupies, as they amazingly do, and then just refused to pretend they never were. This is, quote, Berezovsky, American Pravda, fake political class. This is talking what Vladislav Surkov was doing, setting up. There's no right-left. They faked the whole effing thing. Apparently we can understand how they faked the whole thing in Russia, but we can't understand how they fake the whole effing thing in the United States and elsewhere. It's everywhere. It's a burgeoning business, professional psychological warfare who advertise openly for actors to come be a crisis actor. Johnny on the spot witness. A burgeoning business for rats, Stasi rats. Let's read this. Consider the fascinating perspective of the recently deceased Boris Berezovsky, once the most powerful of the Russian oligarchs, and the puppet master behind President Boris Yeltsin during the late 1990s. After looting billions in national wealth and elevating Vladimir Putin to the presidency, he overreached himself and eventually went into exile. No, General Abed and the military were going to gut him, so good old Putin stepped in and did a bit of a show, got Oleg Deripaska and waved his pen at him and said, "You naughty oligarchs," and then filled it up with more oligarchs. According to the New York Times, he had planned to transform Russia into a fake two-party state, one social democratic and one neoconservative. Ring any bells? Ding, ding. In which heated public battles would be fought on divisive drag queen story time, symbolic issues, while behind the scenes, both parties would actually be controlled by the same ruling elites, with the citizenry thus permanently divided and popular dissatisfaction safely channeled into meaningless dead ends. Russia's rulers could maintain unlimited wealth and power for themselves with little threat to their reign. Given America's history over the last couple of decades, perhaps we can guess where Berezovsky got his idea for such a clever political scheme. And if we were...
So that last part there, where the popular dissatisfaction safely channeled into meaningless dead ends. That is, the current online truth community with the multiple alternative platforms, the tons and tons of alternative channels that have all popped up. They're just channeling everyone into dead ends.
Actually going to say it in terms of the United States, it would be General Jim Jones' knowledge in the NATO Psychological Warfare Planning Office placed heroes all through the alternative media and the mainstream, psychologically profiling them through Clearforce and other companies for their ideological dependability or weaknesses which could be exploited through blackmail and bribery. And then, if they like tranny porn and don't want to be found out what they get up to with Roger Stone dressed in a clown suit with several children around, we then use those people, build them up. We get presidents and secretaries of state to raise their names. We get them on the front page of the New York Post and the Washington Post, David Icke. We then say they're our worst enemies whilst we promote them relentlessly with tens of millions of dollars of free advertising. We then use our special energized hubs to energize other little lackey rats, Nick Fuentes and others, Joe Rogan and others, and Whitney Webb, as we place our people in certain hubs and certain issues with certain demographics to capture markets whilst trying to fuck up other people by hacking them to death, exiling them, locking them up, and breaking their bones. That's the system. But things have changed and they're not getting it all their own way. Keep waking up. Keep pushing the narratives. It's a war of narratives. And I'm telling you, in 2022, I can feel it. Something has changed. A critical mass has been grabbed in all the right places, military, policing, and elsewhere. And I'm so happy and stoked I played my role. Bit of a clown, messed it up a lot, but I did my best and I've made a difference. That should inspire you as well. You can make a difference. Let's do it smarter. Let's take our time. Let's do our tapping. Let's look after ourselves psychologically, spiritually, physically. And let's remember good old F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Okay, I hope I didn't mess up the mic there at the end. If I did, I'll have to go back and correct that and do some video editing. But so, yeah, that was a pretty good clip there. Let's go over a little bit. Early on in that clip, and even later, Brendon says how it's hard to believe anything anymore. And, how, he kind of doesn't believe anything and, he's confused by it, it confuses him. And, I admit I'm the same way. I'm not sure what to believe anymore. And a lot of the stuff that I, view, I'm confused by it. So, if someone like Brendon and me, are confused and not sure what to believe, where does that leave, everyone else? Um, so they they have it down. It's the grand chessboard. There is no right or left. They fund and control both sides of everything. Um, you know, Total top-down control. And earlier on in there, if you caught, he said how they used to have 8 data points on people, and this was pre-internet. And just those 8 data points, they could predict so much stuff on somebody. Well, now consider the internet age and the social media and stuff, and how they have 3,000, up to hundreds of thousands of data points on people, and that's all fed into their powerful AIs they're building. Though they know you better than you know yourself. Just think of what they can predict, you know, and control with all those data points, from all that data mining and the AI running that through there, and that's how they can possibly and likely already doing manipulate stuff in real time. That the AI, highly advanced, it's working, it can detect stuff in real time and put out stimulants in real time, to steer something, if they need it steered badly. And it's kind of like, that truck rally, that was probably put in here for a pressure release because they seen that, people weren't gonna, follow what was going on there for too much longer. So it was, a controlled demolition, so to say. And that 5-minute clip, which apparently was a BBC something, apply that to the USA. That's spit an image of what's going on in the USA, and probably has been going on here for for quite a while. And in that clip it says, eventually they outright tell you what they're doing. And it's all part of the it's all part of the subversion, telling you what they're doing. It just screws your mind up even more. And so kind of take all this information and what Yuri said with his quote there, and apply it to the C-19 era specifically. The past 2.5 years, how nothing, absolutely nothing about the C-19 has made sense. They started out telling us all this stuff, and half the people believed it, the other half seen that it made absolutely no sense. And then as the time went on, they just put out newer and newer stuff, and all the newer stuff just contradicted the old stuff. A lot of it was just complete stupidity to the ones that could see it. It made no sense. A lot of people, it was plain to see. Other people couldn't see it. Just all that confusion that it caused. And then, we're towards the end of it now. It's like they just bailed on it. If you haven't noticed, it's like they just bailed on the whole COVID-19 narrative. Like, the narrative started crumbling. They brought out, these truth doctors, the select, several that really made the rounds and, were really mainstream in the, alternative community. They brought them out. They initiated the crumbling of the narrative. And then, after it crumbled for a little while and, they were controlling that crumbling, it's like they just bailed on it like it never happened. And now it's all about Russia, and the Ukraine, and the U.S. can't let that happen. Possible war with Russia, and Russia. And it's like, forget C-19 ever happened. We're moving on to this now. it's utterly ridiculous and so reminiscent of Wag the Dog. Like, the C-19 narrative is crumbling. What should we do? Well, let's invent a war. That's what they're kind of doing here. And I just, I find it, I don't know, laughable that they're like just bailing on the C-19 now. Like, oh, that was in the past. Just forget about everything we did. But the repercussions of what has happened in the C-19 era is going to be felt for generations to come. They screwed up so much from the C-19 actions that things are not going to be good for a long time. We are in serious trouble, folks. We are in serious trouble, and we need to wake up to the information in this video. That's what we need to wake up to. We need to realize that there is no right and left. Everything is scripted and controlled, and they want us dazed and confused. So if we can get enough people to recognize this, that is when we can unite and try to do change somehow. But you have to wake up to this, to what is going on. So that's all we're going to cover here with Brendon. I want to point two quick things out. Let me screen share and go over to Brave. This video here, I just want to let you know, Brendon put out another video since then. I haven't watched it yet, but if there's really good information in there, I might make up a follow-up video to let everyone know. And I want everyone to know about this video. Now, what about excess mortality, Corbet? I know Corbet's a big one Brendon hounds on, and I'm suspicious of Corbet. Exactly how he became too popular, and it just seems like he's playing his IIA part. But this excess mortality was really important in my eyes, because he has a guy on who kind of just studies the mortality data of the C-19 era, and the information he goes over and the data that he's uncovered from studying it completely blows everything about the C-19 official narrative out of the water. It was really eye-opening. I really enjoyed listening to this video, and I highly recommend everyone else go and do it, because it blows like every narrative out of the water. From the deaths caused by C-19, a respiratory virus, to the deaths that were caused by bacterial pneumonia, to all the damage that's being done as a side effect of from the actions taken to supposedly combat C-19. So this video was really good. I highly recommend you go watch it. So alright, that is pretty much all for now here, folks. Everyone take care out there. Get your higher thought on and start looking at things from a perspective of the information that's in this video. That there is no right or left, everything's controlled, and pretty much everything out there is just daze and confuse you. Leave you standing there going, huh? While they roll right over you down and take us right to the technocratic enslavement society they have planned. So, alright everyone, take care. This is Gold Pilled signing off. Peace.